So here's my suggestion, and take it for whatever it's worth. Calling the opposition political movement a cult when the other one that you happen to be more allied with is obviously much more of a cult is not helpful.
Okay, then tell me. Tell me how it's a cult. Tell me how the Democratic Party is a cult
this?
compared to MAGA.
I'll give you another you asked me for more examples.
Yes.
The day of the State of the Union address, all 22 Democrat senators repeated the very same video on social media, mindlessly like robots.
What video?
The video where they said, something is effing out of control and this is not right. You guys all saw that video. Repeating the same incantation with not even like an iota of creativity or ingenuity, like just repeating it like as if they've been hypnotized into a... Got it.
I have not seen that video.
Charlie Kirk completely destroys this young woman after she says MAGA is a cult. Charlie Kirk wastes no time telling this woman like how it really is, which is no, MAGA isn't a cult. That if either side is a cult, it's probably the party that this woman is a part of. Let's see how Charlie Kirk does against this confused individual.
My statement / question is, would you agree / disagree that the Make America movement, Make America Great movement, again, MAGA movement, is a cult?
No. Why don't you explain to me and the audience what is a cult?
Of course. Okay. Do you know any characteristics of a cult?
Sure. You could take the Jonestown death cult, of which there was a charismatic leader that constantly lied people, and they took him out of everyday normal life and leads them towards ostracization and cutting off of family ties. Am I getting closer to describing the Democrat Party?
According to the... No. What I'm talking about is MAGA.
I love how they always call us a cult, but no, they're clearly the cult. There was the one cult that had their members drink the Kool-Aid and all unalive themselves because they had this belief that, I don't know, some kind of wacko belief. But how is that any different from when the Democrats told everybody, hey, you got to stay indoors. Hey, you got to wear a mask. Hey, you got to take this jab. And most of these lunatics did it. And they wanted to force us to do it.
According to the Bethune Cook University website, characteristics of a cult include isolating members and criticizing them for leaving. Would you say that members of the MAGA movement will criticize others for leaving?
Well, yeah, but you guys criticize players that transfer out of the University of Tennessee football team. That's not a cult.
And the left is way more cultish about people that leave. Any sort of dissent, they get heavily criticized. It's like, you're not a member of our cult anymore if there's any dissident on any particular issue. J.K. Rowling, who was kicked out of their lefty cult just because she disagreed that trans women are women. Like, she agreed on everything else, but that one thing, oof, you're out of here. And the list goes on. That's why their numbers are shrinking, because they keep kicking people out.
Okay, what about the absolute authoritarianism without meaningful accountability?
Okay, so what you're trying to say is that, like, what the leader says, the leader gets, basically?
Yes, Trump.
We have lots of disagreements in the MAGA movement. In fact, I'm more pro-life than the president is. In fact, a lot of people in this audience would have differing views maybe on where the president is at on Israel or Gaza or Ukraine or Russia. In fact, some people in this audience might say the president is not as pro-Second Amendment as they would like. I would argue that we actually have far more intellectual diversity in the MAGA movement than your traditional Democrat Party.
I see where you're going with this and stating that not every person who, I guess, supports Trump is fully supportive of him, but I'm saying the MAGA movement who will agree with him no matter what.
Well, I actually think that there's more depth and complexity to the MAGA movement than you would imagine. A lot of people here who would consider themselves to be part of the MAGA movement, they won't blindly sign on to everything that Trump does. However, they will say that they agree with him 8 out of 10 times or 9 out of 10 times. And so I would say, though, you know what was a cult? What was a cult is what we lived during COVID. During COVID, and allow me to build out the argument that no matter what the CDC or Anthony Fauci would say, you would have the little talking heads on television parrot it back, no matter how insane it was. We must close the schools, 6 feet to slow the spread, wear a mask while showering. Okay, I made that one up. But, I mean, the point being is that far more had characterizations of what a cult would be than the traditional Make America Great Again movement.
I did not watch this video. I promise you, I didn't watch this video ahead of time. So yeah, I mean, even Charlie Kirk bringing up the COVID time, the C-19 era, as proof that they are more cultish than we are.
Okay, but you could also argue the side that Fox News does the exact same thing, where they just regurgitate everything that the right media is saying, and people on the right will believe anything Fox News says. And I'm not defending CNN. I'm not saying the Democratic Party is perfect. I'm just saying that there is a movement of conservative people who support Trump who will do it no matter what.
Yeah, so I'm trying to get to where you have come to this opinion. I'm trying to understand it because I see something completely different.
I do not use CNN as my news source, by the way, just so you know.
Good for you. Apparently you haven't been in an airport recently because the only people that watch CNN is if you're walking through an airport. So I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, and by your own definition of a cult.
It's not my own. It's a legitimate
fine. So let me ask you a question. A cult would probably convince people to do something that would be against their humanity. Would you agree?
Yes.
A cult would probably get people to do something that they know is wrong, even though they think they should do something as right.
Maybe, because some of these people are brainwashed into believing certain things that
For
they
sure.
don't actually agree with because they don't have the proper information
Got
on
it.
it.
So, for example, would you agree that when the Democrats sat during the State of the Union address to not applaud a kid with brain cancer, that is cult-like behavior? Because their leader told them not to do it. I mean,
well, who told them not to?
Exactly. I mean, their leadership told them.
So who's their leader? If they're
Well,
a cult,
Chuck
then who's their
Schumer
leader?
or Hakeem Jeffries, they had strict orders: do not stand and applaud for anything Trump does. They told us this.
Yes.
And so then Trump says, "Hey, can we just have a moment of non-political? Here's DJ Daniel. He's dying of brain cancer. He's now a ceremonial member of the Secret Service." And every Democrat sat with their arms crossed, not even being able to show the humanity. I mean, that's a cult.
Okay.
The lack of self-awareness of these lefties, like these people here, how they look at us like a cult when they exhibit far more cult-like behavior. I mean, right now you have protests at Teslas, and you have people scratching people's Tesla cars. For what? Because the TV told them Elon Musk bad. They don't think for themselves. Again, where's MAGA doing that? When MAGA protests something, we just don't buy their product. These people are out there attacking people's personal property, and they're protesting, and they'll justify it. If we were to do that, if we were to do the exact same thing, if we harass people that were walking out with Bud Light cases during the boycott and stuff like that, they would condemn it. They would be like, dude, these people are insane. And you know what? Rightfully so. But we didn't do any of that. We just didn't buy Bud Light. And once again, these people just think we watch Fox. Nobody watches Fox News. I'm going to tell you this. Only the older conservatives, like boomer conservatives, they're the only ones that watch Fox News. Okay? Everyone else, we watch alternative right-wing media. It's proven time and time again, they don't know anything about us.
On to that. That is simply one example, and I'm sure you can pull a bunch other out. And I'm not saying that...
With the stock market at record highs, are you...
what the Democratic Party did that night was correct. I believe that what they were doing was standing against Trump's hypocrisy and his narcissism and his way of making himself look good by using other people who are marginalized to make himself look good.
So here's my suggestion, and take it for whatever it's worth. Calling the opposition political movement a cult when the other one that you happen to be more allied with is obviously much more of a cult is not helpful.
Okay, then tell me. Tell me how it's a cult. Tell me how the Democratic Party
how
is a
about
cult
this?
compared to MAGA.
I'll give you another I mean, you asked me for more examples.
Yes.
The day of the State of the Union address, all 22 Democrat senators repeated the very same video on social media, mindlessly like robots.
What video?
The video where they said, something is effing out of control and this is not right. You guys all saw that video. Repeating the same incantation with not even like an iota of creativity or ingenuity, like just repeating it like as if they've been hypnotized into a... Got it.
I have not seen that video.
Well, you should. But again, I'm not even the one that is up here throwing around the cult word towards the Democrat Party. I just think it's a supremely rich accusation to say the MAGA movement is part of a cult, when evidently, based on the own standard that you put forward, the Democrat Party embodies those characteristics far more than Republicans or conservatives ever have or ever will.
So one of the main aspects of a cult is a leader, a charismatic leader that people will follow blindly no matter what. The leader of the MAGA movement is Trump. Who are you stating the leader of the Democratic Party is that people will follow blindly without questioning no matter what?
Well, I mean, there's...
And I'm hearing tons of different examples, so that can just tell you there's not one.
Okay, again, so it could be Obama, it could be Rachel Maddow. I mean, the point being is that I don't even think it's the strongest argument to call either party a cult. That's not why I'm up here. I'm simply just playing the same frequency that you're coming at, that based on the definition, the Democrat Party is far more mindless and far more of a Borg, to use a Star Trek analogy, than the Republican Party or the conservative movement. And so, but here's something I do want to ask, though. If you are positing that it is a cult, do you think this entire audience is part of a cult and they don't realize it?
I think that my statement was the Make America Great Again movement is a cult. I'm not saying the conservative party is. I'm saying the far-right MAGA movement is a cult. I will say that I believe in my heart that there are certain people in this group who could be characterized as someone who is in a cult.
Okay. I mean, I think that's insane. And I'm not here to give Democrats advice, but it's so destructive to our politics to call people that just won a national electoral landslide and the national popular vote as part of a cult. Maybe instead it should be, maybe they have better ideas than we do.
Maybe they just... Maybe they had billions of dollars to put into their campaign funding that got them the awareness.
Hold on. I mean, you seem well-intentioned. So who spent more money in this election, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump? It's not even close. It's 3-to-1 more money was spent by Kamala and her affiliated super PACs than Donald Trump.
Do you have the numbers?
Yeah, you can go to opensecrets.org. You can look at all the outside groups, the hard money that Kamala raised, the super PACs that they raised. Democrats, by the way, do you know that 8 out of 10 of the wealthiest counties in America vote Democrat? Do you know the wealthier you are in America, the more likely you are to be a member of the Democrat Party? That the more, if you work with your hands and you don't graduate from college, that you're less likely to be a Democrat. Now, one of your fellow cult members just screamed at me from the audience saying, well, that's because, they're so educated. Do never conflate everybody, credentials, with an education. Just because you have a lot of degrees does not mean you have the most important thing, wisdom. Wisdom is different than a credential. Now, I can tell that you're coming after this from a good perspective. So my last homework assignment for you is this. I want you to go find 5 people with a MAGA hat once this event is over and talk to them. And then I want you to say what you said to me. I want you to first accuse them of being in a cult, because if you can say it to me, you can say it to them.
Sure.
And then I want you to have a good faith conversation, because we are not going to bring this country together, of which is actually our goal here as part of the MAGA movement, which is why we have an open mic, if you go around accusing people as if we're following Charlie Manson.
You just did the same thing to me.
Well, in all fairness, I said if this is the standard of our dialogue right now, the Democrat Party is far more of a cult than the Republican Party. That is not a contention that I throw around lightly, but it is, you satisfy the requirements way more than the MAGA movement does.
You haven't asked me enough questions to know that.
Well, that has nothing to do with what I've said.
Yes, it does.
I mean,
You haven't asked me if I would blindly follow some leader of the Democratic Party, which is no. I would only follow if I do the in-depth research of an unbiased source to get my information, and then I base my opinion off of that.
These people, they swear like just because they've reached an unbiased source, which by the way, what's an unbiased source? Can she tell us that? Or can these people tell us that? Because I guarantee you they're unbiased sources. I guarantee you have a bias that they don't even know. Because I guarantee you she doesn't have an unbiased source, because if she had an unbiased source, why is she getting so angry at this? You could tell that she's getting upset by Charlie Kirk's pushback, because she thinks that we just all blindly listen to Donald Trump. We don't check any sources. We don't think for ourselves, even though Charlie Kirk has given her examples of us thinking for ourselves. When Donald Trump would bring up the jab, he would get booed at his own rallies. So he doesn't even talk about it anymore. I mean, some cult, right? Some cult that, that we would boo him at his own rally. But meanwhile, look at her getting so upset. And she thinks she's not part of a cult. She thinks she's better, that she's just listening to independent sources. If she truly was listening to independent sources, she wouldn't be getting so upset whenever Charlie Kirk would talk about the Democrats in this way. She thinks because the Democrat just doesn't have one leader, well, then therefore it's not a cult. But again, as Charlie Kirk points out, they exhibit more cultish behavior than MAGA ever has.
Can you give me an example of an unbiased source?
I mean, like Mayo Clinic, or just like any EDU source of college information.
I'll end this. If that's your idea of a biased source,
Off the top of my head.
I would encourage you to dig deeper and be more of a free thinker.
And I will, and I am a free thinker. And I grew up in a conservative household, and once I left my parents and their beliefs, and I moved to college in a very conservative state, I actually become more progressive.
Okay, and so how is your relationship with your parents?
I mean, it's fine. We don't agree on most things, but...
Wait, so they didn't kick you out for having a different opinion? They're terrible cult members. Wait, they still love you for who you are? And do they pay your tuition?
Nope.
Okay,
I pay my own tuition. I pay everything on my own.
Well, good. Then they're even better parents. They make you pay for your own stuff. The point. So you can't even point to your own family as being part of a cult. They still love you. They still talk to you.
I would go as far to say, and if they're watching this, I do believe that my parents are in a cult. But...
Do you understand how damaging that is? To go around to say the people who raised you and nurtured you and brought you into the world, that you're a cult because some professor told me the definition of a cult in an anthropology course.
Nope. You're wrong.
All right. Thank you.
It was nice to talk.
These people are like unbelievable. They're mental. Like they're mentally ill. And they say we're in a cult, but look at how they act and their thinking. Like, first of all, she admits that she's coming from her conservative parents. She went to college and became more progressive. Gee, is there anywhere in her thinking that maybe she got more progressive from going to that progressive college? She goes, well, it was in a conservative state. Yeah, but it's still a college. And colleges, in general, are indoctrination factories. Why do all these people go to college and come out more dumber and more progressive and just more unhinged? And imagine if this girl's parents were to go up on stage and be like, my daughter's in a cult. Like, I'm pretty sure she wouldn't like that, but yet here she is, like a spoiled brat, saying, well, I think my parents are in a cult. Why? Well, probably because they're Trump supporters. And good job on Charlie Kirk for telling it like it is. How'd you guys think Charlie Kirk did today? Sound off in the comment section below. Smash that like button if you enjoyed it. If you really enjoyed it, please consider subscribing to my channel. You'll be helping me out a lot. And if you like seeing Charlie Kirk do his thing, I got a whole playlist for you on the screen, along with a bunch more content that I think you'll enjoy.